Hello everyone.
slightly less
I was
camo,
going to show
but
you some more Leopard gameplay, but since there's been so much of that lately, I think I will rather show you this Missile Striker action piece. Since the replay starts kind of slow and the Missile Striker is probably the most passive vehicle in the game, there's plenty of time for me to talk about vaguely related stuff while I waste missiles in the background. The Missile Striker isn't exactly a highly rated vehicle by most players,
why
and it's
no one
definitely
shooting at
a
the salt?
one-trick pony that is in a world of pain whenever it has to do something that it's not really designed to do.
I
But
think you
as
also need
long
the
as you can
monster.
play your own game and deal damage at medium to long range, you can be a pretty mean opponent in many situations. So I've picked my commander and my retrofits with this in mind. Most people would probably run Rashid, thinking that he boosts the missiles, but I actually went with Sabrina. The marginally better missiles provided by Rashid don't really give you any new capabilities, whereas Sabrina gives you
That's
better
quite
camo,
bold by
better
him.
view range, which keeps you alive a lot
Just
better.
go out
And
right
with a
here.
vehicle like this, you really do want to keep your distance, seeing as how anyone who gets close to you will murder you straight up unless you happen to be stationary and have enough damage to volley them. Being a missile-only vehicle severely limits the viable choices for retrofits. I decided to boost my view range as much as I can with the enhanced sight interface and augmented optics, and the only viable firepower retrofit for missiles is the experimental propellant for pure damage. For mobility retrofit I went with the enhanced oil cooling for increased turret traverse and acceleration. So with this loadout I have the missile
That's
damage
a
of
nice position
580
for Chan.
and the quite comfortable view range of over 500 meters. My platoon mate spotting with the weasel makes it safe for me to deal about 3000 easy damage right from the start, thanks to the careless enemies. But with my loadout, I'm fairly confident I could have done at least close to the same amount of damage with very little
Whatever the
risk
fuck is
myself by
spotted me
going
should be
slightly
a heavy
forward.
fight.
But obviously there would always be the risk of getting spotted, and Striker isn't exactly good at evading damage once it gets seen.
I was in the bush.
After my initial firing position becomes
Yeah, he has
irrelevant, I
five
move myself
five
to the other side of the river to
history
see
has
if I can find myself a better firing position. I want to be able to support the middle town as well as shoot down the one line in case the enemy tries to advance. There's usually a pretty good chance of picking off some overly eager scouts or snipers at the edge of the city. The amount of people who have decided not to participate in the battle by going to 8 line seems to be about even in both teams, and as we also have a pretty strong rear guard in our spawn in the form of several tank destroyers, we are left quite weak in all the key positions in the map. In Armored Warfare, games are generally won by taking map control early on, and going to 8 line or staying in your spawn for the first 5 minutes doesn't really get you any. Now, don't get me wrong, especially in River Point, defending the spawn can be amazingly effective and the right thing to do, even with an MBT in some situations, but it only becomes viable once the opponents push up, and especially the tank destroyers have the speed to move around. Now, can you imagine if all those Centauros had been shooting at the targets that we saw early on, going to the 1-2 line? We would have won that side of the map already, even with our light forces there. And as far as those people on the 8 line goes,
I'm
they should
getting
all be in
rushed.
the middle city as it is the most important part of this map. So, here you see me shooting at the BMP, and I don't really expect to do damage, but as a missile-only vehicle I want to take every opportunity I have to burn people's APS charges, so that there's less of a chance for it to save them later on. Besides, I have plenty of missiles, right? Here I'm in a pretty good firing position to support my weasel in the town, and I have a pretty good field of fire as it is. And as long as he plays this side of the city I can probably pick people off when they come for him. And it doesn't take long for the BMP to make a mistake and get picked off. I'm pretty happy to see my flank pushing, but I don't really want to move up yet, as I feel I can be useful from this position still. And the weasel probably isn't stupid enough to come out though. Since the weasel doesn't seem to be too eager to leave the cover of the buildings, I move up a little bit and waste some more missiles, hoping to penetrate the challenger, as if that would ever happen. But I still have over 30 missiles, so who cares, right?
He's literally just waiting for me there.
Oh, okay. I have an idea, don't go. As you can see, the high missile speed combined with good penetration enabled me to be effective even at extreme ranges compared to other missiles, but the nature of the missile still forces me to play quite passive and relies more on other people making the mistake, giving me very little chances to actually create my own opportunities. So yeah, playing this vehicle definitely requires a whole different degree of patience, and is probably not for everyone. The enemy Weasel has finally gathered enough courage to rush Breeze, but I'm ready to support.
I don't know.
I almost missile him, I think, but luckily the enemy makes mistakes and stops, making himself an easy target for my follow-up. I think about moving up at this point since the city is now clear, but decide against it in favor of trying to put some damage on the Challenger. But at this range it's not really good use of time and missiles, as hitting even the most clueless Challenger driver in the weak spots is pretty hard. I maybe should lower my mouse sensitivity further. Meanwhile on the 8 line practically no progress has been made either way. I think this is part of the legacy of World of Tanks, as people think that MBT should be played like World of Tanks heavies, which results in needless frontal weak spot sniping matches that take forever when people don't have the right crew skills, retrofits, or the positioning. This tank is so passive. Must resist the urge to drive around. Quite often in a situation like this I get this irresistible urge to start driving around, trying to make things happen, but it quite invariably ends horribly and should not be done in this tank unless there are absolutely no other choices. I feel pretty much the only way to make a push happen with this is creeping forward slowly, trying to outspot stuff and hope they are on the open so you can actually damage them, but generally it doesn't really go very well. More often than not you end up taking a lot of damage without having a slightest chance of giving something back. We've actually managed to take over the 1-2 side, which is nice, but they seem to have a lot of base defenders, and I'm not exactly being useful right here. Our 8-liners have finally managed to die, but it's not really a problem, as now the enemy force must attack from extremely vulnerable position. The right move on their part would be to turn back now, but if they were smart they probably wouldn't be there in the first place. As I move up I have the chance to put some blind fire on the Lav 600, but despite one of these hitting I feel I probably should have actually tried to penetrate the Challenger instead, as he is very exposed and generally speaking the more difficult target.
Ah, this fucking designation system.
The biggest threat right now is the Challenger on this side of the river, as he is doing all the spotting for them. If he dies then we can actually improve our positions even further, putting more pressure on the base defenders. Frontally the Challenger is definitely possible, but by no means easy target for this. And as I get spotted I must smoke and move away, since I really don't want to take too many hits.
I'm in a bit of a pickle now, I think.
Oh, you're in a weasel. I hang around for a while hoping I can do some damage when my smoke clears, but I can't really stay long, since the Challenger can just press W and come murder me. So I run, take some distance and reposition myself. Since we lost all our pushing potential on this flank, we are definitely on the defensive right now.
I got so lucky there. LAV only hit my gun, my turret, so he didn't reduce damage.
I think we need to kinda stay alive and make them do their mistakes from now on. At this stage I'm running low on missiles, and our Leopard 2, which actually could have been very useful, decides that he must now rush the enemy alone against 4 tanks. So on top of that, the enemy team now has a huge advantage in hit points and armor, but I feel we still have a pretty good chance of coming back, since we have a lot of firepower and spotters alive. And again, despite my low missile count, I take the chance to burn enemy missile strikers APS charge. Okay, I have 14 missiles left. There's 8 enemies. I think just need to force them to attack our spawn. My main worry on this flank is that the Challenger who was chasing me realizes how strong his position is and just keeps coming, but luckily he takes his time. So let's have a new rule, you cannot die, okay?
I mean, I can try.
It would be better if you didn't.
Identify target.
I guess I can like campu in E7. That's a way to not die.
When he eventually shows up, he's taking such a slow route that I can actually safely get a few shots off. And I get lucky, penetrate his gunner's side for full damage, which does enough damage to scare him off. Which in turn frees me to support the rest of my team, as I don't have to worry about my own safety so much anymore. If he comes, I can shoot, but it's a Challenger, so... While I was dealing with the Challenger, our tier 6 Centauro suicided to 8 line, which leaves a pretty big dent in our firepower, as my own capability to cause damage is running quite low. Basically everything is up to that Centauro 120 in the spawn right now. I climb higher on the wall in order to get a better field of fire, but I'm so worried about the Challenger 1 creeping up on me that I miss a chance to put some fire on their missile striker rushing up over the field. I rush the shots, but my turret doesn't turn fast enough, so I miss the first one, and the second one only triggers an APS. Horrible use of missiles at this point, considering how much hit points there are still on the field. The Love 600 follows up after the striker. These should be very easy shots, but he has his smokes left, so only one of the missiles connects. Okay, losing those missiles was really bad. The Centauro manages to take down the Love 600, but vaporizes immediately afterwards, leaving us in a pretty tough situation.
Yeah, now we're fucked.
I barely have time to reload as the Challenger 1 rushes Breeze, but sadly I only get partial damage penetrations, which is not enough to kill him. Yeah, I have 6 missiles left, there are 6 enemies and 2 of them APS. Me and my Weasel buddy are surrounded, and they know where we are, so someone might say that the odds are stacked against us. Luckily I get 1 in 1,000 penetrating shot on the driver's hatch, which gets us a kill we desperately need. It's time to put on my distraction hat and hope my Weasel buddy knows where his carry pants are. If we let them get close to us, we're just simply done. So I pick a side, charge the lone Challenger, and hope the Weasel follows me. It's time to use some hit points. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to park in front of the guy. No. Weasel, do it. You can do it. As he starts to follow me, I decide to save my missiles and let the Weasel kill him. Go Weasel.
This thing is gonna be hilarious when you like don't have to delay anymore on the missiles.
And now that he's down, it's time to move again. We must keep the distance and not get caught. Luckily the Challenger blocking our way is at low hit points. I simply can't care about being spotted right now. I must get the kill before he gets the cover. With him down, we are no longer surrounded, so now we can use our speed to maintain distance and retain some sort of control over the engagement. Since the only viable target for me is the Challenger, I must just play the role of a bait and hope the Weasel can do the damage. I don't want to say this is depressing, but this is a little bit depressing. The Weasel should be able to kill everything. That's not that... Nice. Their striker YOLOs a little bit too much and gets wrecked, but I almost do the same right after him. Should I his APS off? As the BMP leaves the Challenger uncovered, I decide to try to take him out before he comes back. Sadly, I only get a cupola hit again, which is not enough to kill him.
Weasel needs to kill the BMP first, then you need to sacrifice yourself for Weasel.
I have no idea what the BMP was thinking, but somehow a certain loss has turned into a victory. I can only imagine they were so certain of their win that they didn't realize how fast their situation actually went downhill. No, don't kill me.
All the way too close.
That was that so hard. I would say proper use of hit points, I guess.
And the ammo just left like one extra salvo.
Yeah, just in case he failed, you know. Oh, almost 10k damage. Which means I actually hit 2 blind missiles at some point.
Wow, you had You actually wasted some blind missiles too.
So I hope that was both entertaining and maybe even educational. And shout out for Arnie the Weasel for being on the ball in the end. Nice job. GG's and thanks for watching.